Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk today. Finally, a little bit of a positive episode. I think our last episode was something about the Padres becoming a joke, which was very fair at the time after 4 loss series in a row, some very rough times. However, they come back, they bounce back, they sweep the Angels. Tomorrow, if they win, it would be the first time they've won 4 consecutive games in the year. And this is the kind of make or break it part of the season. And so we wanted to talk about what the Padres must do if they're going to make the playoffs. Right now, they're sitting at 6.5 back after the Phillies just won tonight. Now, I think the Marlins lost today, so they're only a couple games above the Phillies. The Brewers are in between there. They're kind of battling with the Reds for that division and potentially a wild card spot as well. The Giants have started to fall off the face of the earth. And then the Dodgers are a couple games above the Phillies as well. So it is a big-time uphill battle. However, I think one of the most important things for this discussion is, and we'll start with this one first before we kind of get into specifics with the other teams, with what the Padres as a team, as a unit need to do player-wise. But this is their remaining games. This is what they include: 7 against the Dodgers, 7 against the Phillies, 7 against the Giants, 7 against the Diamondbacks, 3 against the Marlins, and 3 against the Brewers. So they have the option. They can do it. They kind of control their own destiny in that sense, and they have a lot of chance. But Chase Isaac, what do the Padres have to do if they're going to make the playoffs?
They got to keep hitting like they are right now with runners in scoring position. This last month, they were one of the best teams with runners in scoring position, surprisingly. I think they went like 13 for 28. They were really, really good. They actually got timely hitting. Their pitching was pretty solid. The bullpen, on the other hand, is kind of where they faltered and where we started to lose series, where the bats were hitting, the bullpen was struggling. And we kind of continued to see that through. Nearly blew one of the games against the Angels because, we had to pull Hader to come into the ninth inning because they gave up, 3-4 runs in the ninth inning and made it a 7-5 game. So as long as they continue hitting and the starters continue to do, that's kind of what they have to do so that, we don't have to rely on a lot of guys in the bullpen to come out each night for 3 innings, 4 innings. Kind of can't have that. You can't have Honeywell and Garcia going back to back before you get to the strong part of your bullpen. You kind of have to have your starters go deep into the game so that, maybe you throw Honeywell and then you throw Hader and then you throw Tim Hill one game, the next game, and then you throw, I don't know who else. Basically Hader. You have to throw Hader every single night if you're winning. That's kind of how it feels like right now. So as long as the bats continue to hit, I think we're going to be fine. We're going to be in a good place. Maybe we need to trade for a reliever or figure out what reliever is doing really well in the minor leagues and call them up. I know Robert Suarez is getting rehabbed. I know Steven Wilson is probably going to get his rehab assignment soon. So reinforcements will come soonly, and they can't come quick enough. But the Padres are surprisingly in a decent spot. I won't say a good spot, but they're in a decent spot to make playoffs if they continue to hit really well.
I'm going to go ahead and say that in order to make the playoffs, the Padres need Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, and Jake Cronenworth to contribute the way they did this past series. They all had some very good series, and I think that's kind of where the struggles really lied in June. They had a combined 650 OPS in June, and that's not going to cut it from your 3, 4, 5 hitters. So in order for the Padres to continue to kind of go at the pace that they're going right now, winning 4 of their last 5, they're going to need those guys to keep contributing, because Toddy's going to do his thing. Soto's going to do his thing. HSK is batting up the top of the lineup. He's going to do his thing. These are guys that have – Toddy may not have the highest on-base percentage, but these guys get on base at a pretty high clip. They hit for power. So there's going to be guys on when Manny, X, and Jake come up. And in order for us to produce runs at the rate that we have been these past few games, we're going to need the 3 guys that I mentioned to keep producing. Other than that, bullpen help. Steven Wilson, need him to come back as soon as possible because, Nick Martinez has been, I think, horrific is kind of an understatement. I'd say, if I remember correctly, he probably has above a 10 ERA in his past 7 games. He's been everything you do not – I mean, I hate to rip on Nick Martinez. I really like him, but he's been everything you don't want him to be. It's a good thing that there is a team option in his contract, but he's a guy that you don't really look forward to getting on the mound right now. And, I mean – I really hope he fixes it. I do think he's going to fix it, but it needs to be sooner rather than later because he is supposed to be a high leverage guy. He's supposed to go in high leverage innings and shut it down. He has not been doing that lately. So, Robert Suarez, hopefully he comes back. We talked about it a little earlier today. I don't know if I expect him to come out the way he was last year, hot as hell out of the bullpen. But he needs to be a good piece, hopefully later this season. Hopefully he comes back in general. But yeah, Steven Wilson can't come back any sooner. Tom Cosgrove is doing great out of the pen right now. Hader's doing great out of the pen right now. Those are really the only two guys that you're really counting on out of the pen that are doing good. Tim Hill's been iffy, especially defensively lately. But those are the two guys that you're really happy to see come out of the pen. And that's not a good thing. You need more guys to be – you need that Steven Wilson. You need that Robert Suarez. You need to get Nick Martinez right because this needs to be a pen that can hold it down when the starters have one of the best ERAs in all of baseball. I mean, the starters have been fantastic, one of the best staffs in all of baseball. We need the relievers to start holding it down because it's been costing us quite a few games lately. So in order for the Padres to make the playoffs, pitching needs to keep doing their thing. We'll probably talk about trades here soon, but getting another starter is going to be pretty important so that we are not essentially throwing a game with Matt Waldron, Reese Kinnear, etc. And yeah, man, I mean, getting your 3, 4, 5 hitters back at the plate hot, it's going to be very important. So next 7 games are huge. You face the Mets 3 times and the Phillies 4 times. Mets are trying to right their own ship while we're trying to right ours. So we need to take them out first. And then we need to at least take 3 away from the Phillies. And we'll be looking good going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting just because I feel like people are going to feel like, oh, yeah, you guys have been kind of so dismissive of this team. Not even dismissive, but I would argue to say realistic of this team, kind of being this is not we don't have a lot of faith. We're not believing in them. I think it's interesting too, because Chase, you brought that up and we've kind of talked about it a lot. This has been such a disappointing season. And I think all those things can still stand. However, if you take a step back, we were talking about this before we got on, we're not going to stop rooting for them. We're not going to be sitting there yeah, season's over, blah, blah, blah. This is a team that we grew up watching super horrible Padre teams, absolutely terrible, right? This is a much better team. And you said, Chase, that we're in a pretty good spot. And it's true because if you look at how horrible.
I said decent.
Okay, pretty decent spot. And I think that's true because if you look at how poorly they have played up to this point, it's 100% true. You're sitting at 6.5 games back right now. And I just told you guys 34 games that are going to be super impactful on whether or not the Padres make the playoffs. They still have a chance. They're not cooked. And if you look at their first half, and the first half was a week ago. So especially if you look at the first half, because the last week or so, that's when they've really started to heat up offensively, especially with runners in scoring position. They're the worst ever. They were the worst ever team with runners in scoring position for quite some time. And the fact that you're sitting 6.5 games back is really surprising for one. Also goes to show you how good the pitching has been. But now we're sitting at a spot. And this is, I think, my biggest concern moving forward because I think the bats are going to turn around. At least Xander, Cronenworth to an extent, but mostly Xander and Manny. And they've kind of started to get hot, and that's going to be a really big thing. And if they're able to do that, that helps a lot. That makes the lineup so much deeper because for the full season, the 4 through 6 spots and the bottom of the order, but more specifically, the 4 through 6 spots have been the reason that the Padres have sucked. That is the reason that they are not 500. That's the reason they're below 500. Now, I remember saying this a month ago on the show, but I said, yeah, the problem with when you don't, take advantage of your pitching being good, when you have back-to-back months when you have the best ERA in the league and you're not winning those games, is that your pitching's going to get hurt or your bullpen's going to fall apart. And what have we seen over the last 2 weeks? We've seen the bullpen completely shit the bed night in and night out. And they've really struggled up to this point. Now, right now on the active roster, you guys brought up a couple names. Nick Martinez and Tim Hill have not been good. Luis Garcia he hasn't been good all year. You basically have Hader and Cosgrove that you're very confident in. And then you have this second tier of guys that we've always really liked and we've always been very intrigued by with Adrian Morejon, Jose Castillo. Now Castillo looked bad in his first outing, but those are guys that we think they could end up being pretty solid. hopefully Robert Suarez comes back. I'm not going to bank on that, but Steven Wilson will be back soon. We are really counting on Nick Martinez to get it together because he's been awful lately. Most of the struggles, at least that like we were talking about earlier, is like he's just throwing stuff in the middle of the plate and he's getting taken deep. So I feel like we've seen a decent amount of Nick Martinez over the past year plus where I think he's going to bounce back and I think he's just going through a rough patch. But I think that's the kind of the scariest part of where this team is at is like you start losing games like in that Pirates national stretch, red stretch where you're losing games because your bullpen's blowing games. You cannot afford to do that. And especially in these series where you're banking every single time you play one of these teams, like you need to take the majority of those games. The Mets right now, the Mets and the Padres both just are coming off of these win streaks. They're both kind of like, are we going to fall apart? And Steve Cohen said like, yeah, like we might sell if we have to. Well, they start winning a little bit. They're not going to do that, of course. But you kind of want to like in their season this weekend, you want to sweep them or take 2 or 3. Like that's what you want to do. You kind of want to like set that right before the All-Star break. And then right after the All-Star break, it's a 4-game series against the Phillies. These next 7 games are incredibly important. So I think that's where it starts with. And then I think that when you kind of look at the rest of the season, like you have to start beating these good teams because the Padres basically play almost all of their games for the rest of the season. There's a couple series that aren't, but almost all of their games are against really bad teams, like the worst teams in the league, and teams that they have to beat to jump to make it in the playoffs. That's what you want to do when you're not in a playoff spot. So they can do it. Like they can bounce back, but they have to play a lot better. You need the bullpen to have either guys come back from injury or guys bounce back or trade for guys. And then the only other thing I would say, we're going to talk about trade stuff either tomorrow or very, very soon, or I don't know. We're going to talk about trade stuff tomorrow, I think. But the other thing is they have to have a better DH option. They already DFA'd Nelson Cruz, which Nelson Cruz had much better offensive numbers than Matt Carpenter. So in my opinion, that didn't make much sense. People argued, oh, well, he plays the field. Yeah, he has 6 games started at first base. I don't really consider that playing the field. That's basically irrelevant. You could put Brandon Dixon at first base, and he has roughly the same numbers. The only reason he probably didn't get cut is because he costs more money, and they're hoping that it pans out and doesn't look as bad. And they're hoping that, I don't know, maybe he goes on a tear and declines his option. That's not going to happen, I don't think. But you have to have a better option at DH as well. So, and also, I mean, hopefully Campy gets back at catcher, but like those are your big holes right there. And you need your stars to bounce back. So overall, that's kind of my recipe. The bullpen cannot fall apart, and you need more offensive production from areas that you have not had it and you're starting to get it in some, but you need more, and you got to take care of business.
For those who don't know, the Padres rank 3rd in run differential in the NL. Yet we sit 7 games below 500, basically. We cannot continue to win games by blowouts and lose close games. That is one of the reasons that we're sitting below 500 now. The offense overperforms in blowouts and underperforms in close games. We shouldn't have a plus 35 run differential and be sitting under 500. A plus 35 run differential puts us 3rd in the NL above the Diamondbacks, Giants, Phillies, and Marlins. The Marlins have a -7 run differential and have a way better record than us. They sit at 51 wins with a -7 run differential. We have plus 35. So, as long as we can win close games, we will be fine. But that has been the problem: is win close games. It's a switch.
No, Chase, you're right. I mean, every time, definitely being able to show some fight is going to be huge because every time it seems like throughout the first half of the season, every time they go down in the game, they end up losing the game. And they were able to show some fight recently, especially against the Reds. It didn't go our way, but having to throw Ray Kerr and Drew Carlton in there in that first game is definitely a killer because, quite frankly, they suck. But the last game, I mean, same thing. We were right there. It's just Nick Martinez hung one and ended up losing that game too. But yeah, I mean, being able to show some fight, being able to win those close games. I mean, last year, the biggest difference was winning the close games. We won 89 games, and a lot of them were like Jorge Alfaro walk-off, Manny Machado walk-off, type things like that. If I'm guessing how many games, there's 75 games left. If I'm guessing how many games we have to win to get a playoff spot, I would say we got to go We got to win 48. I think we need to win 48 in order to make the playoffs, which is what, a 48-27 record? 48-27. It's a tall task. I mean, it's a really, really tall task. That's huge. But I think if you want to be guaranteed a playoff spot, I think Fangraphs has the last playoff spot getting 87. Last year, the last playoff spot was either 86 or 87 from the Phillies. So, like I said, if we are going to make that last playoff spot, it's got to be 88 wins, and we got to go 48-27. Tall task, but I think we can do it. I think we got the team on paper to do it. I think the pitching staff has been great, and they will lead the way. But all in all, it's going to lie in the hands of the stars, of, relying on Manny to get hot, relying on Soto and Toddy to stay hot, X to get hot, Jake to get hot. I mean, 48-27 is a lot. The 2021 Braves were 52-54 after, 106 games? So, I mean, we can get hot too, but it definitely all lies on your stars.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you guys. But anything else you want to add to kind of what makes it happen? I feel like a lot of people know it too. Like we've seen this team. Like if you're watching this team every day, like what the struggles are, and you've seen the inconsistency. And Chase, you brought up the run differential. I think that kind of just shows how inconsistent this team has been. And I think something that hasn't got brought up too much is like over a while now, like because early in the year the offense was dreadful. But even with the struggles from Bogaerts and Manny and stuff, like the offense has still been putting up a decent amount of runs for a while now. It's not like they have. It's like, oh yeah, their offense has been performing for a week. No, it's been like a month or so, like where they're pretty consistently putting up 4 or 5. But it's the bullpen now, so that's the thing, and we'll see if it happens. But I think those are the biggest keys. Those are the biggest keys right there. But I think it's probably going to do it for today. So we'll come back tomorrow with some trades and some stuff like that. If the Padres are buyers last week, because, next 2-3 weeks are going to determine what they're going to do. If they're going to trade guys off, if they're going to move someone, or if they're not, maybe they're going to make some small moves to kind of come back and try to make the playoffs. Everything they've said is that they're going to try to make the playoffs. So I'm not really expecting them to sell anymore. I don't think they're going to do some crazy move to try to go all in to make the playoffs this year, but I think they can make minor adjustments. So we're going to talk about a couple kind of ideas we have for some minor adjustments if they decide to go that route, which I ultimately do think they're going to do. So we'll have that one up tomorrow or probably Saturday, I think. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon.